my gosh, you guys, we are back. I am so excited to welcome in a beautiful new friend and coach and teacher. Her name is Alyssa Johnson. Alyssa, welcome to the What She Said podcast. Welcome, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is such a joy and it's so exciting. And on this very auspicious day of the inauguration, it's like so exciting to do this.
I am noticing you have adorned yourself in a meticulous fashion. So tell us about why pearls are important today to you.
Yes, because our esteemed Vice President, Kamala Harris, is known for her love of pearls and her chucks. I do not have chucks, but I had some fake pearls that you can see here, and I'm wearing pearl earrings. I've had these for maybe since the day I was born and have worn them maybe once. And then I have a teeny tiny little pearl on this ring. So I am here in full support of Kamala and this beautiful platform she is now in the role of to showcase her many gifts and strengths and talents to the world.
It felt very, I don't know, I don't know about you, but I was really surprised by my own reaction to it. I kind of felt like it's not like I wasn't a part of the process, because I'm a bit of an activist, and I help like support campaigns by making phone calls because I like to talk to people. But like, I don't know if you felt this, but something happened. Did you feel the shift? When did you notice the shift? My shift happened when she exited the limo, and then I like got in my body and then cried. Did you have any feelings around today or any shifts while you were watching?
There were two moments with respect to Kamala, or Vice President Harris, that were very poignant for me. The first is when she went outside and then she like took a moment and she looked around and you could see her inhale and really doing her best, was my perception of being present and embodied and soaking in all that was there for her to receive. And I loved seeing that because to me, it felt like she was very conscious. It wasn't an unconscious process for her. And then the other moment that was particularly poignant for me was when Justice Sotomayor swore her in, and just seeing the first Latina Supreme Court justice and then the first Black and Asian female vice president being sworn in. It was such a collective, momentous occasion. And then I started crying at that moment.
I couldn't hold off that. She's like, I saw once she exited. I hope to another time take a look at when they were all four folks were standing there and figuring out where her husband was going to stand. For me, I found that to be a metaphor and fascinating to watch. It's just like, and then there was like they were navigating it, and then the four people were, I don't know, just things to talk about. We have so many. But I heard something I think other people heard in your description that I want to ask you about.
Okay.
You have an interesting career background. So before you became a coach, and you've got a course you're going to tell us about, what is your sort of academic or career background we need to know about you? Tell me more about you.
So I'm a former attorney. So I graduated from law school in 2004. And I moved to DC and I practiced law for a few years, both in a small law firm and in a large law firm. And then I left the practice of law in 2008 and I went and worked for a large corporation where I sold legal products and legal software services to law firms in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And I did that until 2013, and I was in DC that whole time. And then in 2013, I left DC entirely. I felt really complete with that lifestyle. DC is a very aggressive legal market, and it was wreaking havoc on my system. And there were some other things that I needed to look at and take care of in terms of my own inner being. And so then I spent about a year and a half just traveling around the US. I went to Costa Rica. I lived in Seattle for a few months, and I landed in Austin, which is where I currently am, in January of 2015. And I have been here since. And I no longer practice law, but I am still involved in the legal profession in a couple of different ways.
So I knew this, but I didn't know the DC part. Mm-hmm. And so I'm also a person who experienced DC, and it's where I went on the national tour.
Okay.
Because I worked in Annandale.
Yep.
I know. And I was like going in the buildings, like selling products to other businesses. Oh my gosh. Yes. And then I was like, oh, I need to go down to, I don't remember what stop for a lunch break. And I was auditioning at the Kennedy Center. Of course I was. Because I sang in a karaoke bar like you do in DC, like in Southeast, right? Just
Yeah,
trying to survive it. And I met an actor. Do you know how these things happen and they
they do.
move us along this path? But after tour, similarly to you a little bit earlier, I didn't want to go back because
Mhm.
the hustle I would have had to do to afford my rent in 2005 is the same as my mortgage on the house that I live in right now.
I absolutely believe it. It's just
It
exorbitant.
it was more than I could handle. Do you know, when I think of other lifestyles and I like try to train my kid on how to think about things, there's trade-offs. For
Mhm.
her dad lives in New York, there's positives and there's trade-offs.
Yep.
I'm coming to you now from Columbia, South Carolina. So
Excellent.
I know. And we just think I mean, it has its trade-offs. Obviously,
Mhm.
you're in an amazing place. Austin is awesome. I would love to know about when you began to think about tie-in coaching. Where does this pop up after 2015? Tell me more about that journey.
Yes. So that is actually a newly emerging part of my work. So in 2008, that was when I was practicing law. I was working, solid 70, 80 hours a week. I was miserable. I was becoming a less evolved version of myself, very bitchy and very, I had a temper and I would lash out, and really low levels of patience and compassion. And that's just because of how much I was working. It wasn't good for my system. About that same time, I started becoming interested in spirituality because I just felt, I was like, there has to be more to life than working. And I think that's probably what a lot of people feel when they start to open up to that type of work and type of world. And so I started on a spiritual path, and it fit me so beautifully. I started learning more about energy and just the way that we are as humans and human development, and it made perfect sense in a way that I had never kind of been able to piece things together before. So that was a trait and that was a thread that carried me through everything. And in fact, I became more and more spiritual, and leaving behind or not feeling in alignment with the values of DC, which are, DC is amazing and I have wonderful friends there, but there are three pervasive beliefs and values that I found when I worked there in law, and it was, who do you work for, how much do you make, and how much do you work?
Yeah.
And those three things were becoming less and less important to me. So that thread has always been there. Well, then I left DC in 2013, and I grew up in an unloving home and had extensive and prolonged childhood trauma. And I dived into little pieces of it throughout the years. But of course, when you're working that much and when your career is as important to you as it can be to Washingtonians, as it was to me, I just didn't have a lot of time for it. I'm not working 60 hours a week and then doing deep dives into my inner being and trauma. And but it was, I had to, like, my system collapsed. And so then I spent the next few years in therapy and really going into childhood trauma and the dynamics of that and abusive relationships, and learning the different pieces that I experienced and that role in my life. And so about 20, so I say all of that because the whole time with that, I was still interested in spirituality, and I was now becoming more interested in psychology and human development and trauma informed care, and how do we actually operate from a trauma informed lens, even though I don't have a PsyD or a PhD or a master's in counseling or in therapy. So I started building out a spiritually based business. And what I actually do is I am able to, I work with light beings, beings of light, and these can be angels, ascended masters, guides, so many of them. I tend to use the term light being to encompass all of that. And I channel a being of light named Ariel, meaning she actually speaks through me. And she had come to me in 2012, and I was in meditation, and she came to me in my meditation space and said, I want you to start channeling me. We're meant to work together in your lifetime. I was like, cool. And so I started channeling her, and then I built a business with her. She is my business partner. And so my focus was solely spirituality. And that was what it was really 2015 to like 2017, 2018, 2018 or so. But what I found is that I was not incorporating this, I think, really beautiful aspect of my development, which was law. And there is something so poignant and crystallizing for me in terms of being able to work with lawyers. Because lawyers, we go to law school. This was my experience, is that many people go to law school because there's a perceived injustice in the world that they want to correct, right? These really heartful, heart-centered reasons to go to law school. You go to law school and then you learn to think a certain way. They train you to think a certain way. And quite frankly, a lot of times it's very negatively. You start to see a lot of the shadows of the world. That's kind of where lawyers can sometimes play, is in these really complex dynamics. And so that beautiful heart-centeredness can sometimes get suppressed. And then you come out of law school, you have a huge amount of debt. And so it's sort of direct, you got to pay it off. And so that directs a lot of people's career choices. And so what I found in the practice of law is there was such a hunger for love and connection and heart-centeredness, but not a lot of opportunity for it. It wasn't really embraced. That was my experience. And again, I was in DC, which is a very legal, aggressive legal market. And I felt that come back in as I was starting to do my sacred work. And I felt that only focusing on spirituality and those pieces of that spiritual people are interested in, I was really leaving behind a really beautiful part of myself. And so my heart started changing, and then like just the guidance from greater consciousness and source, and it started coming in and being like, it's time to start to bridge the seeming disconnect between law and heart-centeredness. And that is now where my full focus is. And it is so enriching and beautiful and amazing. And I feel like I'm getting to utilize all aspects of me because I incorporate my spiritual stuff and I have extensive training in that, and the law stuff, which I find I have so much respect for. And we have to evolve law. Lawyers have to evolve and connect those pieces as consciousness expands. We can't leave it behind. It would be disastrous to try and leave it behind, is my opinion.
It's really beautiful. My brain put together two things, and maybe tell me if I'm wrong. So in your own path, there was the child, and then the child has reclaimed themselves, and you're like reclaimed all parts of themselves as this adult part of you. And it seems like your work takes a person with law, a legal training, and then like reconnects them to that child part of them who wanted to fix something, and then brings them into the maturity of reclaiming all of it and their legal selves. So it seems like this really beautiful parallel work that you're doing. I don't know, my brain just sort of put it together. It's like, it had like a visual. That's wonderful. Okay, so also there's so much we could talk about. I'm fascinated by Ariel, and I'm fascinated by I was one of those people who took the LSAT and the GRE at the same time. I had a big,
Oh my gosh.
no,
Wow.
it was, I
I
took it
bow
on.
to you.
Look, it was a dare. The GRE had math on it. The LSAT did not. And I'm verbal, highly verbal, and a question. And so I actually did well on that. And then I had a choice to make. I had a choice to make. And I made a choice, and I have an MFA. But I know so many folks with Esquire. I know so many suffering lawyers, suffering. I know them because I'm a storyteller, and they get near me because I'm also kind of squishy, and my heart-centered.
Yes, and they just soak it up.
Yeah, because in there, I've also needed to utilize the legal profession because also women and other marginalized populations tend to experience some discrimination, some other, and so it's been an interesting journey with that. I'm curious about, you have a new offering, and it sounds like it melded it all together. Do you know, I love these moments of brilliance that pop up. And then you created something for folks. So I'm helping folks refine like who goes to this course. So who are you looking? Okay, tell me about the course, and then who do you think your perfect participant would be? Like what would they be trying to work on?
So the course title is boundaries, vulnerability, and our work. And it was born of from my conversations with lawyers. I talked to a lot of lawyers, of course, in my work, and generally hear the same thing or the same themes in terms of what lawyers want. And it generally tends to be they want better boundaries. They want to work less, right? Lawyers, I don't think most of us want to work 60 to 80 hours a week. They want that reduced pressure of having to be perfect. We can't mess anything up. The business deal will go bad, or my client will suffer something really horrible. Like, there's such a perceived stressor on having to be the perfect lawyer, because there are real life stakes in our hands. So that's just so exhausting, and lawyers don't want to have to feel like they have to be superhuman, right? We are human too, and we make mistakes. That's how we're learning. I hear a lot around a desire for greater civility in the law, greater respect and treatment and kindness with lawyers, that it's not constantly like guns blazing. And that is a very old model of law that got us very far, where it's, who can like be the loudest, worst person in the room, they win. But that just destroys us, I think, or many of heart-centered people. And it's now a real call for collaboration, and how can we actually be more of a loving leader, right? Rather than having to go in guns blazing and fighting on every single point. Even if you're not in litigation, you can still have conflicts in transactional law. And then I also hear a lot about wanting to be more vulnerable, that the way that law can look right now for people is it can be unsafe out in the world, meaning there's hostility from opposing counsel or judges, like that external world. And then the firm or the working environment that the lawyer is in may also be really unsafe, because your colleagues may be attacking you, or you may feel that, may perceive that. Or, if you're perceived as needing a little bit of extra help, like getting support for mental health issues, like I'm very open that I am in therapy, and I will probably be in therapy for a long time, right? It just because of my own stuff, like that's perceived as a weakness, that I'm not strong enough to have, dealt with my childhood abuse on my own. And that, like, very unrealistic expectations that way. And so I hear like a lot of the same themes. It's just wanting more compassion and self-love and just love towards others in the profession. And so what this course was a direct response. I co-created it with Ariel and the guides I work with, based on lawyers telling me I want better boundaries, meaning I want more free time. I don't want to work all the time. I want to be vulnerable. Like, I want to be able to share, today's kind of a crappy day. The kids are at home. I got a migraine. Like, I can't show up in the way that you constantly expect me to show up. And then the other piece that incorporates more spirituality is envisioning, what does our ideal work situation look like? And that really goes into looking at the energy dynamics of the work situation, working at the soul level with the other people, the coworkers, having to become really honest, that there may have to have some courageous conversations, right? And so it's all of these different pieces that I love to explore. I have not mastered any of them. No one has, I don't think. And so I'm learning myself as I teach the content, and as lawyers teach me what they're really seeing in their everyday dynamics at work.
Brilliant. And I know 7 people right now. I'm taking some, I'm like, gosh. So some questions that might pop up. I'm just thinking of the 7 people that I love that are lawyers that are either still practicing or not. If they don't identify as a spiritual person, how will they work within your content? Do you think there's enough room for them if they're not like aligned with one like spiritual mission?
The answer is it depends. I think most of the content they will, because lawyers, one of my most favorite reasons of working with lawyers is because it's very easy for me to be spiritual and like leave my body and go do all the spiritual things, right? And that's not practical, right? We're in a body, and we're I think meant to deal with embodiment stuff. And lawyers like have none of that. They are like, how can it help me now? Right. I love it. They're so practical. So the class is really rooted in practical tools and discussions and how do we do this?
That's going to
there
make
will
those 7 people very happy. They're like,
yes.
I heard you, and that's curious, but also like, I need tomorrow to do
Yeah,
something.
right. Like I got this client who's driving me insane. Like, right.
Yeah.
I get it. So that's the base of the class, the foundation. But I layer. So there will be a lot of inner work and heart centeredness, because I have experienced in my own work through therapy and in my own life experiences, in order for us to have boundaries, we need to know what it is that we want. And so that involves a dive into our inner being, right? So we have to do heart-centered work and like go inwards to see what is it that we actually really want, and be able to put that in words or think about how to have that conversation if it doesn't feel safe at this moment in time. And then I also channel. So the channeling piece might be probably new for a lot of attorneys. And that to me is a crucial core component of my work, because beings of light operate from a much greater expanded consciousness than we do as humans, and they see things from a much greater perspective. And so they're able to bring in information and work with our own systems in ways that help us have better understanding of what's going on, or greater greater alignment with our own systems, so that clarity and just different pieces can open up to us. So that will be probably a piece that's very new. And I have a lot of friends who are deeply religious,
Yes.
and they love channeling. They like that's, even if their religion is very wary of what it is that I do, they're operating a little bit outside of the box there, and it's so nourishing for them, and they really are hungry for it, because it's just bringing in a different perspective. So I just say, if that's a deal breaker for people, they don't want the channeling, then it's probably not right for them. But if you're open and curious, like, I think it's amazing. And I have lots of free channelings on my website that people can download if they want to just listen and see what is this experience like before they even sign up for class.
You know your people, because they're going to ask me for that next. Okay. I was thinking about those 7 people, and I'm like, I think they're 3-way split, like Jewish, or they're Christian, like maybe Catholic or Lutheran, yeah. And then also other would be the third box of my 7 people I'm thinking about. Mm-hmm. So that is good to know. So here's what we're going to do. Yeah. This course starts soon. And so what we want to do is I'm going to get this out to all of the folks on the What She Said project on my personal page. I'm going to tag some interested folks. And in it, we're going to tell them verbally, but I'm also going to put it in the comments. How do people find you, and how do people contact you if they have questions?
Great. And do you want me to?
Yeah.
Oh, you said verbally. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So I have a website, and it's www.alyssajohnson, which is ALYSSAJOHNSON.love, LOVE. And then there you can go and you can learn all about me. And then there's like a free offerings tab, link that people can go to. And there's tons of channelings, including the most recent one that I did. I do a free channeling every single month for the upcoming month's energies and dynamics. And at the end of December, I did it for all of 2021. And so the guides did about a 30-minute message on what's coming down the pike this year and what we can kind of expect. And so if people can download or stream it totally for free. And then there is also a link for my Boundaries, Vulnerability, and Our Work class. So you can go directly to that page and look at that and find out more information. And if people want to contact me, you can do it through my website. I do have like a contact me link, or you can email me directly, and it's Alyssa@alyssajohnson.love.
We have 3 parting questions at the What She Said project. We hope you'll play with us with these 3
questions.
questions.
I would love to play.
All right, 3 questions are: what is your favorite pandemic snack? We need to talk about snacks on the way
out. I have such a sweet tooth, and I'm vegan. So like these, and I really love chocolate chip cookies. So it's kind of a toss up between these vegan chocolate chip cookies that I get and make, or that you can buy like vegan chocolate chip cookie dough with chocolate. And it's like, I could eat like a whole container of them. And so those are my yummy pandemic snacks.
Do you have a favorite beverage that you can, whatever beverage you would like? What's your favorite beverage right now? Daytime beverage.
It's a toss up. I have a blueberry hibiscus tea that I love. And I also am just a huge fan of water. I drink a lot of water.
Digging the water, staying hydrated. Yeah. All right. Last thing is,
Yes.
Have you discovered, or you can tell us about your favorite self-care activity? Like, what is like something you do that you're like, yes, this is nourishing me? What's a self-care activity you enjoy?
So I like doing things with my hands because I can get anxiety. And I have found that when my anxiety is high, keeping my hands entertained really helps reduce the anxiety. And I recently learned how to clean silver jewelry. And so what you do is you take a mixture of baking soda and water, and then you can just put like in a couple drops of dishwasher soap, and you like mix it all up, and then you get a rag that it's just a little bit fibrous, and then you just dip it in, and then you like clean your silver jewelry that way, and they come out sparkling and so beautiful. And so, kid you not, it's so calming for me. And then I'll just like put on something on Netflix that's really cheesy and makes me feel good, and then I like look at my beautiful jewelry and it's so wonderful, and it's so easy, and it's just like it makes me feel really good on so many levels because I'm making my things more beautiful, and I'm keeping myself distracted and keeping my hands engaged, and it just helps calm my anxiety.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. It's like
You're
I
welcome.
wrote down the word as you were talking about your work. It's like making it more human, like bringing the humanity back to law, bringing the
Yeah.
humanity back to these folks in that profession. And you just made yourself even more humany for us. So thank you for sharing your
Oh,
work and yourself and your brilliance with us.
oh,
I
this is a
cannot wait.
joy.
Look, I'm about to tag up a bunch of folks. This sounds great. I'm also going to say, can we have an academic? I'm a recovering academic. Can we have an academic create its version? Like we need to because it's very similar stuff going on right there.
I have heard that, yes. And I meet, as we do this heart-centered work, and I'm sure you're finding this, it's like I'm meeting people from other professions who are like, yes, that's what I'm doing in this profession. And so I have no doubt they are out there.
Yep. And look, it's the creatives that are coming to me right now. That's all of it. Like healing that creative child self is my work. And then my clients look like that. I'm like, yes, there it
Amazing.
goes. Love it. Thank you
Love
for
it.
coming to play with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a joy.
A joy, a treat, and a blessing. Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
It started at noon. Hey.
It
And
did.
I'm going to go right now and check out that 2021 channeling. Thank you
Yep.
for the work that you do. Stay in touch with us, and we'll see you on the flip side.
Sounds wonderful. Bye.
Bye.